I am on a quest to play every Nintendo 64 game ever. Today, we're traveling through time to restore peace to Hyrule in The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. I was so creative back in 1998. Ocarina of Time, the groundbreaking and earth-shattering game that revolutionized gaming. If you go to thesaurus.com and look up the word revolutionary, you'll find Ocarina of Time. This game is considered the greatest game ever made by thousands and thousands of people. But is it actually as great as the world makes it out to be? For any of you penguins who haven't played this game, surely know how it controls. Link swings sword, Link shoot bow, Link boom boom, your typical action-adventure gameplay. And it's your typical action-adventure gameplay because this game created typical action-adventure gameplay. The biggest compliment I can give this game is what I would give very few Nintendo 64 games. The controller just feels right for this game. Every ounce of my broken body despises the N64 controller. It's quite honestly god-awful. But Ocarina and the controller go together like cinnamon and mac and cheese. It's good. If only they utilized the D-pad, maybe for like boots, and what a concept, am I right? Instead of harping on the lack of D-pad functionality, many gamers harp on Ocarina's combat for being too slow, like a waiting game. And that's definitely true, there's no denying it. The combat revolves around patience. If you're the kind of person who opens the mail at the mailbox instead of waiting to get back inside, you will probably get a tad frustrated with this combat. It's pretty basic for today's standard, but back during its release, this combat was great. It was revolutionary. If the game wasn't painstakingly slow at times, we wouldn't have gone this great meme. There's more to this game than just there's the whole world of Hyrule, several unique towns and villages, many temples and dungeons to explore, a vast open world unlike anything else at the time of its release. There's Kakariko Village. It's a small, beautiful, cozy town that instantly feels welcoming. Castle Town is bustling with excitement and it feels alive. Zora's Domain is the prettiest place in Hyrule, and yes, the music paints it a prettier color. Kokiri Forest is an enchanting shelter away from society that I wish I had in 2016. And Goron City is awesome. That song is absolute flames. This music could cure depression. Oh! Honestly, the entire soundtrack is incredible. It's iconic and well known to millions. It has legendary songs like Gerudo Valley, Song of Storms, and Lost Woods, while also having deep cutting atmospheric tunes like Forest Temple and Dodongo's Cavern. They're great songs to horribly whistle to while playing the game. I love going to 10-year-old videos of this game's soundtrack and finding really weird comments. Are you okay? I wish I was a Zora. That sounds like my dad on our trip to Mexico. It's just so wonderful hearing all these songs as the player explores Hyrule and travels through each dungeon. And the dungeons? Oh, they are just marvelous in Ocarina of Time. For the most part. The dungeons begin with the Deku Tree, which in my opinion is the absolute greatest first dungeon in any Zelda game. It's brilliantly crafted to not only introduce the player to the mechanics of the game, but the mechanics to any 3D adventure game. In fact, in 2014, I bought my friend a 2DS and Ocarina of Time 3D for his birthday. He had played very few video games in his life, and he was able to clear the first dungeon without asking for any help or even looking up a guide. That's a testament to how incredibly well designed the Deku Tree is. Beyond the Deku Tree, there's Dodongo's Cavern and Jabu Jabu's Belly. They aren't anything to write home about. They exist to establish Darunia and Rudo as characters, and to flex the N64's capabilities.
24 megs worth of weapons, worlds, and weirdos, old killers up against Nintendo's biggest game ever!
The Young Link dungeons are okay, but they're definitely the inferior portion of the game, because when Link travels 7 years into the future and becomes an adult, the temples really begin to bust a groove. The Forest Temple is the crowning jewel amongst the temples. It's an atmospheric masterpiece that rivals Metroid. The Fire Temple demonstrates the calamity that Ganon has brought upon Hyrule and its people, and has the player feel like a real hero for the first time in the story. The Water Temple sucks eggs. It's like trying to spread stick butter on toast. The Shadow Temple is eerie, unsettling, and strikes the perfect amount of fear into the player. Please bring back the hover boots! The Spirit Temple tests the power, courage, and wisdom of young Link and adult Link intelligently, and offers up some of the game's finest puzzles. And Ganon's Castle is an amalgamation of everything the player experienced up until that point. It's an excellent recap of their journey and a grand conclusion. These temples provide a thrilling experience. Except the Water Temple. That's the wet sock in a dryer full of warm and comfy clothes. Of course, not every temple is exempt from flaws. Each one has their own issues. Except the Forest Temple, because that's like the definition of perfection. If you go to thesaurus.com and look up... I already made this joke. For some reason, as soon as game developers got a hold of 3D space, they acquired this weird fetish for block puzzles. Why is this a thing? I'm a patient man. I'm not a violent man. But I would love to know the name and address of the designer who approved the stupid amount of block puzzles in this game that wasted my time. And now that I think about it, the Forest Temple has the most block puzzles in the game, I'm pretty sure. I'm not a hypocrite though, I promise. Besides block puzzles, most puzzles were relatively innovative in the 3D space. As long as it doesn't involve pausing every 5 seconds to put on boots! Iron boots, why can't you be cool like the hover boots? My biggest issue with dungeon layouts in this game is that the dungeons seem to be designed indecisively, where the developers didn't necessarily know whether they wanted linear dungeons or more open ones. Young Link dungeons have some extra unnecessary rooms where you can get extra goodies, whereas in the adult Link dungeons, nearly every room is mandatory, unless you're speedrunning. I think linearity makes the dungeons more exciting. It's a consistent flow of knowing where to go, with little aimless wandering. Linear is the way to go. I need to stop saying the word linear. I'm going to scare away the Skyward Sword haters. But as long as you play Ocarina of Time linearly, it's so great. If you don't, well, the side quests. Now, I'm not saying everything outside the required reading is trash. It's just everything outside the required reading smells really bad, like a dumpster. Side quests in Ocarina of Time have never been appealing to me. Even when I was younger, I could not vibe with it. The mask quest, the big Goron quest, finding this woman's puppy side quest, none of this is fun. The mask quest isn't even remotely worth it. You get stale bread dialogue in the Mask of Truth, which gives you hints. I guess that's cool, but is it really worth all the back and forth? The different masks like Zora, Goron, and Gerudo are neat because, you know, you can bring out your inner cosplay. I'm sure that was the cosplay awakening in a lot of players. But just go to a convention instead. And skulltulas? Do I really need to rant about these things? I think most people dislike them. Why are there 100 of them? Why is getting all 100 the worst reward in the game? I do not like them. And now for my scalding take. Many will want to cast me into the depths of the dark world for this. But man, the big Goron sword is not worth it. Zelda games typically include a giant fetch quest, and usually they're really neat because it allows the player to become more familiar with the world. Link's Awakening is a shining example. Link talks to several characters on Koholint Island and learns their personality, which in turn engulfs the player into the world, and makes the ending much more impactful. It's not the same with Ocarina though. The Big Goron Sword quest is probably my least favorite quest in 3D Zelda history. It forces the player to go back to the same characters over and over again. There's a wide array of unique characters in this Hyrule, but they only choose 4 to be represented and slightly fleshed out in this lengthy quest. It's frustrating. I never liked the Big Goron Sword. I've gone it very few times because I refuse to do that quest. Who thought putting a timer on this was a good idea? Let's show that you can traverse our giant and groundbreaking open world in just 4 minutes. That is how you date your open world game. And this is all for eye drops? The stories in all these side quests are so uninteresting. I'm really glad they recognized that when making the Masterpiece sequel. Thankfully, the main story's writing quality doesn't mirror the side stories, because Ocarina has one of my favorite stories in the Zelda franchise.
Hey, you. You're finally awake.
The story in Ocarina of Time is a simple tale of boy saves world. But just like any want-to-be philosophical Instagram account, I say, it's about the journey, not the destination. Link's mission in this game is to travel through time between adult and child to save the 7 sages, to defeat Ganondorf, and restore peace to Hyrule. Ganondorf is a solid villain. He is introduced and fleshed out early enough, his motive is clear, and he's probably the weakest character in the game. And that says a lot. The wire that makes this narrative light bulb glow is the sages. Each sage is beautifully written and are beyond memorable. Saria is Link's childhood friend who realizes her sad fate of leaving the forest and her friends. Darunia, the Goron brother who respects Link so much that he names his offspring after him. Rudo is Link's fiancé. They're pretty cute. Impa mentors Zelda and gives Link the key to every puzzle. Zelda's Lullaby, which is also the best song in the game. Rauru is that dumb and iconic owl who I didn't realize was the owl until last week when I was writing this. I never put 2 and 2 together, even though I always skip both of their dialogue. I should have realized that they have the same skippable energy. Naboru, the Gerudo who betrays her people because she doesn't want to follow Ganondorf. And Sheik, who has one of the craziest plot twists in gaming history. I don't think people give this game enough credit for that. Sheik was clearly a Shania Twain fan.
Man, I feel like a woman.
Maybe my mom would have actually played this game if that was the case, because that was the only song she sang when I was a kid. That and Power Rangers. Link meets all these characters as a child at some point, and by the time Link rolls up to pick each sage up to bring them to the Chamber of Sages in his orange Mercedes, the player knows them very well because of the Young Link sections. It's a brilliant plot technique to develop each character. These sages are historic because of their growth and development in Ocarina, and that says a lot for a game on the Nintendo 64, a console known for neglecting narrative. Because this narrative design was so successful, they tried to replicate it in later titles, but it just never landed as well as Ocarina did. I believe Ocarina of Time has one of the strongest casts of characters in any Zelda game. So how great is Ocarina of Time? If I were a reviewer in 1998, I would give this game a solid 9.1 out of 10. It was groundbreaking, changed gaming, and inspired an entire generation. But how has it aged? Well, there's this little thing called quality of life, and dear God, Ocarina of Time needs it. This intro is longer than my funeral. Why is this text so slow? Only 90s kids remember block puzzles. What's this day cycle? The text speed? Oh yes, I love it when Poes disappear into walls. Oh, thank you so much. Okay, for real, this text speed is killing me. Side quests are just awful. Skulltulas! God! Because of these annoyances and many other small things, this game isn't as great as it once was. Times have changed, and that's okay. It's still regarded as one of the greats. Some regard it as the great. If this game released today, I would have to give it an 8.3 out of 10. Just because this was a revolutionary game does not mean it's free from its flaws. So the next time you turn on a video essay or a review that begins like this,
Ocarina of Time is a masterpiece.
well, they're just wrong.